The Law Factor with advocate Clarence Arenas Gandawa. Marriage, it begins with love, promise, and hope. A journey where two lives intertwine, building dreams, sharing futures, forging legacies. But not all journeys last forever. Some fade, some fracture, some unravel before the law. Divorce is more than separation, it is the reckoning of trust, the battle over assets, the fight for children, the negotiation of what remains. Love may ignite the union, but law determines its end. And in that end, knowledge is not just power, it is survival. Today, the Law Factor takes you inside the courtroom where emotions meet statutes, where futures are decided not by love, but by legality. Because when marriage ends, the law begins, and the law moves forward. You must move with it. Over to you, advocate.
Thank you, Zola. Greetings to you all. Today we are talking about divorce and issues around divorce. So, grounds for divorce. When the law steps in. Divorce does not arise without cause. It does not knock on the door uninvited, nor does it slip through the cracks unnoticed. No. Divorce comes with weight, with consequence, with justification. Courts do not concern themselves with fleeting emotions or moments of doubt. They demand evidence, proof that what was once whole has crumbled beyond repair, that the union, once a sanctuary, has become a battlefield, that the love, once unwavering, can no longer stand before the law and claim legitimacy. Irretrievable breakdown of marriage. When the foundation is cracked beyond reconstruction, when every attempt at repair has failed, when love, trust, and partnership have faded into silence and distance, this is when the law recognizes that the marriage has reached its end. Not through anger, not through resentment, but through undeniable reality. The courts do not heal wounds, they merely acknowledge that they cannot be healed. Adultery, betrayal that becomes law. A promise made, a promise broken. Adultery is not merely a moral failing, it is a legal justification for dissolution. One partner steps outside the marriage, the law does not turn a blind eye. Betrayal has consequences. Trust shattered is not just emotional, it is legal, and in divorce, the courts weigh fidelity not as sentiment, but as evidence. Abuse and domestic violence, when the law must protect rather than preserve. Marriage should be a safe haven, a place of love and trust, but when violence enters, when harm replaces care, when fear takes hold, the law does not preserve, it protects. Abuse is not a private battle. It is a legal crime, and when the law intervenes, it does not ask for reconciliation, it demands justice. In the courtroom, bruises are not hidden, voices are not silenced, and suffering is not ignored. The law moves to shield the victim, to break the cycle, to ensure safety above all else. Because no marriage, no vow, no contract is above the right to live free from harm. Neglect or desertion, when one walks away without looking back. A marriage is built on presence, on commitment, on the promise to stand together against time and adversity. But what happens when one partner simply vanishes? When duty is abandoned, responsibility discarded, vows ignored. Desertion is not just an emotional wound, It is a legal cause for divorce. The law does not allow one to walk away without consequence. When a partner leaves, when they refuse to return, when they sever ties without resolution, the courts step in. Because marriage is not just companionship, it is duty, and duty, once forsaken, is grounds for dissolution. Legal separation is a precursor, the code before the storm. Some couples do not leap into divorce. They take measured steps, time apart, space to reconsider. Legal separation, recognized by the courts, often serves as the precursor to final dissolution. It is the period where assets are divided, where custody is determined, where the once intertwined lives begin to untangle. For some, separation leads to reconciliation. For others, it is the first step towards closing the door forever. Either way, the courts take notice. Separation is not absence. It is the legal foreshadowing of a decision that may soon be irreversible. Divorce is never just a signature on a paper. It is not merely an ending. It is a legal unraveling of a life built together. The courts do not ask if pain exists. Pain is assumed. Pain is inevitable. Pain is the silent undertone of every case, every ruling, every document filed. No, the courts ask something else entirely. They ask if the law finds cause enough to intervene. Because in divorce, emotion is secondary, legal grounds are primary. Love may have brought two lives together, but in the end, it is the law that decides how they part. Divorce and the battle over wealth. Divorce does not just divide assets, it divides power. It divides futures. It divides survival. Some leave the courtroom secure, with wealth intact, dignity preserved. Others live with nothing, financially ruined, legally outmaneuvered, wondering how the system failed them. Because divorce is not just about who gets what. It is about how the battle is fought. And in this war, ignorance costs everything. The tactics of asset battles in divorce. Divorce is rarely simple. Some spouses stall negotiations, not for fairness, but for exhaustion. They drag proceedings, bury their partner in paperwork, delay settlements until legal fees drain them completely. By the time assets are divided, one partner stands strong, the other is financially crippled. Others go further. They hide assets, shift property ownership, manipulate business finances. The courts demand disclosure, but deception finds cracks in every system. And for those who enter this battle unprepared, wealth slips away before they even see it happening. Emotional and legal warfare, beyond just money. Divorce does not just cut financial ties, it cuts emotional ones. And in that turmoil, wealth is weaponized. The house you once called home, a point of contention. The business you built together, a battle over control. The savings meant for your future, a negotiation dripping with resentment. And the most devastating of all, children used as leverage. Custody battles fought not for love, but for power. Make no mistake, divorce is a battlefield, and those who enter unarmed do not emerge victorious. Protecting your wealth before and during divorce. Knowledge is survival. Those who prepare before divorce protect what they built. Those who hesitate lose everything. Understand asset division before filing for divorce. Demand full financial transparency. Never accept blind settlements. Shield wealth through proper legal agreements. Never assume fairness will prevail. Some believe divorce is a system of justice. Others learn too late that it is a system of strategy. Because in divorce, the law does not serve emotion, it serves evidence, preparation, and precision. Divorce is not just the end of love. It is the battle over wealth, and in divorce, financial ignorance is not just costly, it is devastating. You must move with knowledge. You must move with foresight. Because when love fades, the battle begins, and the law moves forward, you must move with it. Custody battles, when children become the question. Divorce does not just divide property, it divides families. It takes what was once whole, shatters it into pieces, and asks the law to decide where those pieces belong. No ruling is more delicate, no dispute carries greater weight, because when separation looms, the question is never who just walks away, but who stays for the child, who raises them, who makes decisions for their future, who steps away and who remains. This is not a fight for victory, it is a fight for stability, for protection, for ensuring that the law does not fail those too young to understand its weight. And in this battle, the court does not ask which parent suffered more in marriage. It asks which parent offers the child a future worth fighting for. Best interests of the child, the foundation of all custody rulings. Every argument, every case, every battle in the courtroom bows before a single principle: the best interests of the child, not the grievances of the parents, not the pain of separation, not the revenge of one against the other. The court asks, where will the child thrive? Who provides stability, emotional security, financial safety? Whose presence serves their future rather than disrupts it? And if the answer is unclear, the law decides, not on impulse, but on precedent, not on emotion, but on evidence. Sole custody versus joint custody, the battle of parental rights. Custody is more than who the child lives with. It is who holds the power to shape their future. Sole custody. One parent takes full legal authority, the other restricted, reduced, sometimes removed entirely. Joint custody, a shared responsibility, but not always equal. Some decisions remain split, some roles remain divided, and the courts do not rule based on sentiment, they rule based on capability. Because parenthood is not a title but a duty. And if one cannot fulfill that duty, the law does not hesitate to act. Visitation rights and support payments, ensuring stability beyond divorce. Divorce is separation, but it should never be abandonment. Even if custody is decided, the law demands continued care. Visitation rights, a structure ensuring that parents remain present even if the home is no longer shared. Support payments, because responsibility does not end when love does. Some fight for visitation out of love, others fight out of obligation, and some cruelly fight only to maintain control over their ex-spouse. But the law is clear. What matters is the child's welfare and not the parent's battle. Parental alienation and disputes, the weaponization of children. There is no betrayal more devastating in custody battles than turning a child against the other parent. It is manipulation disguised as concern, It is poison whispered in fragile ears. It is a war waged on an innocent soul, forcing them to choose, forcing them to doubt, forcing them to abandon bonds they once trusted. The courts see it, they recognize it, they rule against it, because a child is not a possession. A child is not a bargaining chip. A child is not a weapon in legal warfare. And in every case, the law moves not for the parents, but for the child. The law moves forward, and so must justice. Divorce leaves behind many wounds, but none deeper than those inflicted upon the children caught in its storm. Because children do not file for divorce, children do not choose separation, children do not stand in courtrooms fighting for assets, for property, for wealth, and yet they are the ones who suffer most. So the law must stand for them. The law fights for them. The law rules for them. Custody battles do not ask which parent is hurting, they ask which parent is healing. And when the law moves forward, it does not move for arguments. It does not move for vengeance. It moves for the future. It moves for the child. And in that movement, justice finds its voice. Alimony and maintenance, the cost of separation. Divorce may free two individuals from each other, but it does not erase obligations. Love may end, vows may dissolve, lives may untangle, but financial responsibilities remain. The question is never just who walks away, but who pays. Because in divorce, financial reckoning follows long after the courtroom doors close. Alimony versus spousal support. The price of ending a marriage. Not every divorce concludes with a clean break. For some, separation comes with financial dependency, where one spouse must support the other long after the marriage has fallen apart. Alimony. A legal obligation to provide financial stability for an ex-spouse, ensuring that one does not sink while the other thrives. Spousal support. Temporary assistance designed not to sustain but to transition. And the courts do not decide based on emotion. They decide based on income, contributions, and financial necessity. For some, alimony is justice. For others, alimony is punishment. But in law, it is obligation. Child support payments, securing a future beyond marriage. Divorce separates spouses, but it must never separate responsibility from parenthood. A child does not choose separation. A child does not fight for financial independence. A child does not stand before a judge demanding fairness. And yet, they suffer most if divorce destroys the structure they depended on. Child support payments, a system ensuring that children are not casualties of separation. Education, healthcare, daily needs, financial duties that persist beyond marriage. It does not matter if the love fades. It does not matter if the parents resent each other. What matters is that the child is protected, cared for, secured in their future. Because parental responsibility does not expire when love does. Post-divorce settlements, the negotiation of fairness. Every divorce ends with agreements, but not all agreements end with fairness. Some live with security, others live with devastation. Division of property, financial compensation, debts, the final balance sheet of a marriage. Disputes, contested assets, legal intervention, when settlement turns into battle, and too many walk into divorce unprepared for what can become financial ruin tomorrow. Divorce does not always end with freedom. For some, it ends with financial burden. For others, it ends with regret. for not fighting, for not protecting, for not foreseeing the consequences before the ink dried. The courts decide, but knowledge prepares you for what comes next. Because in divorce, ignorance is not an option. The law moves forward, you must move with it. Divorce is more than the end of love. It is the beginning of legal consequence. It is the battle over wealth, the reckoning of promises, the future of children, and the price of separation. Before entering marriage, understand its weight. Before filing for divorce, understand its consequences. Know the grounds upon which divorce stands. Understand the laws that govern assets and property. Recognize the stakes of child custody and financial obligations. Seek counsel before, during, and after separation. Divorce is a storm. Some survive, others sink, but knowledge is the difference. The law moves forward, you must move with it. Legal knowledge is power, divorce is reality. Choose wisely. See you next Thursday.
Springfield Law Clinic, justice defined, rights protected. We are here to serve.